Good afternoon, I'm Vashon Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The Electoral Commission of Jamaica, ECJ, says it will be closely monitoring the financing of election campaigns for the September 3 parliamentary election. A candidate may spend a maximum of $15 million in election expenses and a registered political party up to $630 million. All expenditure and contributions must be reported to the ECJ. In a media release, the ECJ reminded political parties and prospective candidates that all gifts, sponsorships and monies contributed to them during this period must be disclosed. The ECJ says contributors may give a maximum of $1.5 million to each candidate and up to $31.5 million to a registered political party. Contributors of $250,000 or more must declare contributions and any government contracts valued at $500,000 or more, which are held or gained up to 2 years prior or after a contribution. Additionally, individuals or entities who currently hold government contracts must declare any contribution no later than 14 days of making the contribution. Individuals or entities who are awarded government contracts after making a contribution must declare same within 14 days of entering into the contract. Now, failure to disclose contributions or government contracts held can result in charges not exceeding $1 million and or a term of imprisonment not exceeding 12 months. And the Electoral Office of Jamaica, EOJ, says by weekend all will be ready and set for the country's general elections. Speaking on Power 106 FM's Morning Agenda program, Director of Elections Glasspool Brown said the EOJ is finalizing training for election day workers.
We have completed our training. We have trained in excess of 22,000 persons, that is presiding officers, poll clerks, supervisors. We are now, hopefully by this weekend, we'll be completing the training of what a group of persons we call the one-day policemen. Those will be assisting with the security and the physical distancing, etc. on the day. So our training is fairly complete.
Now, yesterday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced that Election Day will be Thursday, September 3. August 18 will be Nomination Day. And the country's 4 registered political parties yesterday agreed on several measures to ensure a smooth nomination and election day. The officials met with political ombudsman Donna Parchment Brown. Mrs. Parchment Brown says the discussion focused on the signing of the political code of conduct, use of social media, number of people present for nomination day, and additional assistance for electors on election day.
In relation to the nomination day, which we know is a day of great excitement in the constituencies, what was agreed is that there would be a limit of 2 persons per PD who would be invited by the candidate's team to be out on the nomination day. The usual marshals that the political parties have would be brought into play to try to ensure that the numbers are kept down and that the conduct is such that the mask wearing, the social distancing and constant sanitization would also be a feature of their activity on nomination day.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Parchment Brown is considering policing social media platforms due to COVID-19 restrictions. A heavy reliance on the use of social media platforms for political campaigning is expected. However, Mrs. Parchment Brown laments that monitoring the platforms could be challenging. On to other news now. Despite being under a state of emergency, gunmen continue to wreak havoc in several communities across the Kingston Eastern Police Division. And as TVJ's Anthony Lugnow reports, the police are accusing the residents of withholding information.
The Kingston Eastern Police Division has been rocked by several murders and shootings in recent weeks, and Tuesday afternoon was no different. This despite the area being under a state of emergency. I'm here in the Dunkirk community, and I can tell you that the area is extremely tense due to an ongoing gang feud in the community. Now, right at this very location where I'm standing is where a young man in his early 20s was shot and killed on Monday afternoon. In less than 24 hours, another man was murdered mere meters away from Monday's incident. He has been identified as 51-year-old Peter Ellis. Reports are that Mr. Ellis was sitting outside his home when gunmen walked up and sprayed bullets. He reportedly ran after being shot. He was later taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Senior Superintendent Victor Hamilton is the head of the Kingston Eastern Police Division.
We have personnel in the area. We are processing the information that we're getting. And yes, that area is giving us some concern. It's of concern. But we keep asking for persons to give information.
The killings in McIntyre Villa are just a small fraction of what the police have been battling. There have been 6 murders in the division within the last 5 days. SSP Hamilton listed some of the hotspots.
Windward Road, the Greater Brownstone, McIntyre Villa. Off Dinner Road, we haven't had a murder in the vicinity of Dinner Road. We're still trying to find out the motive for some of these incidents. Yes, it sounds bad, but the cases are not a continuation of an existing case, so they are scattered all over. So, but we are attending to each case.
Meanwhile, there remains a strong police presence in the community. However, SSP Hamilton says despite their best efforts, residents continue to withhold information from the police.
We continue the appeal, as always, to them that for their own good, they should provide us with the information and they should expose the criminals. If they have information, rather than incriminating themselves by trying to take the law into their own hands, give information to the police. Trust the police. Trust the Kingston East Police.
Anthony Logg, TVJ News.
And we now take a break on the midday news, but please stay with us. More news right after these. Welcome back. Continuing the news now. Back to news on the political scene. There was a heated exchange in Parliament last evening over the accomplishments of the Andrew Holness administration in the last 4 years. In announcing the date of the general elections, Prime Minister Andrew Holness listed a number of projects which were carried out, but it did not sit well with the opposition. O'Shane Masters reports.
The parliamentary opposition has given a failing grade to the Andrew Holness administration for its handling of development projects and issues affecting the country. Prime Minister Andrew Holness yesterday in Parliament listed a number of projects which were started or completed under his administration, such as the South Coast Highway project and the major improvements in the road network in the corporate area. But opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips was quick to point out that many of the projects began under the previous PNP administration.
It would have been good when he was touting the South Coast Highway to acknowledge that the planning for that began. He only had to take it in the previous administration.
The broadside by Dr. Phillips continued into the management of the economy. But Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark would not have it, raising a point of order.
We have to get our facts clear. The quarterly GDP for the quarter ending March 31st, 2020, registered a decline as compared with March 2019. All of Jamaica will know that the WHO declared a pandemic on the 10th or 11th of March in 2020, which led to a shutdown of our international airports. This is a point of order because the member is making a point to say that the decline that was registered for the quarter ended March 2020 started before the pandemic. That is currently untrue.
Despite disruptions from the opposition, Mr. Clark was defiant in making his point.
We will not allow the member to get away with such nonsense, and I will remain. I'm not stopping. Mr. Speaker, I need your protection. We will not allow this misinformation to go on. Tourism declined by 12% in March 2020 because of a complete collapse of the tourism industry due to the pandemic. And no matter what they say, they cannot change that fact.
The opposition leader, however, was not satisfied with the explanation provided.
Look here, man, I never interrupted me matter how whole heap of inaccuracies. Keep yourself quiet. Keep yourself quiet. Mr. Speaker, the member does not deny what was occurring in the quarter that ended December, that it was slowing down. And he's referring to the last 3 weeks of March to explain the results of the entire March quarter. He's showing incredulity.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang commissioned a computer-based traffic ticket system on Tuesday. He believes it will help reduce lawlessness on the nation's streets, especially among rogue taxi and bus operators. But as our reporter Prince Moore explains, one of the objectives of the system could leave some persons worried.
This machine, known as the handheld ticketing solution, is the latest attempt to take branches of the Jamaica Constabulary Force off a paper-based system. Police officers will use the gadget to issue tickets to offending motorists. Once the ticket is issued, the information is stored so that it may be shared with the courts and tax office. For the National Security Minister, the best thing about the system is that it could help reduce the incidence of corruption on traffic stops.
So there's no way to tear it out, to remove it from the records, as allegations are made of police officers conducting traffic enforcement. Sometimes they even do it for a good reason. And I mentioned on the recently when we had the horrendous shooting in St. Catherine, one of my good friends who is a consultant surgeon was on the way to treat the officers who was in theater, and he was stopped by the police, of course. Once the ticket was written, he had to go into the system. So even if it's a good reason, it prevents any kind of discretion, which I think is what we want to remove from law enforcement.
As outlined by the National Security Minister himself, the police giving a motorist a so-called bly during a traffic stop can be the difference between life and death. So, could it be a dangerous move to take that discretionary power away from the police?
If necessary, you can have the court decide after that there was mitigating circumstances, but it is not left to the officer on the road to make any kind of discretionary judgment, which we have to try and eliminate, because when that happens, unfortunately in our society, it's the police that get blamed. It's never really any other reason at all.
Now, the good news for motorists with this technology-based ticketing system is that the days of frustrating waits at tax offices or courts for traffic infringements could be over.
If you wish, you can pay electronically, and that stops the whole process and it gets going. But that record will be at the tax office and at the court management office, and it means that if you don't go to court, we can issue a warrant immediately without any delay. But this has been one of the big challenges we have faced in the court management system. And in fact, during the course of the last year, we have had to do a cleanup of a backlog of tickets because the court could not issue with credibility warrants.
Lawless taxi and bus operators, especially those in the corporate area, are expected to come under increased pressure over the coming weeks as the handheld ticket machines are rolled out.
Various individuals I've heard have 1,000 tickets, 900 tickets, 300 tickets. And the process, of course, my police officers get blamed and they're told that the car is owned by a policeman. Poor police officer can't even buy the tires in the car, but I'm telling you, he's owned it, taxi. And it's all over. All of that will be eliminated.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Another push by the authorities to reduce road fatalities, especially among bikers in Western Jamaica. Now the Road Safety Unit of the Transport Ministry collaborated to bring the road safety education program to bikers in Petersfield, Westmoreland. Herman Green reports.
A commitment from road safety stakeholders to increase and maintain a motorcycle safety educational drive in Western Jamaica. Insurance entities, the Traffic Enforcement Branch of the JCF, the Heart Trust NTA along with the Road Safety Unit started the program on Sunday. It's believed that indiscipline, bad habits among motorcyclists, and ignorance of the road code contribute to the climbing number of crashes and fatalities in this group.
This whole thing is about like changing behavior, because what is happening, about 78 motorcyclists have died on the nation road so far, and the bulk of them are from this parish. And I personally have led numerous operations down here to curb this sort of behavior.
Our trust have a program, and most of the road safety stakeholders have signed off on the program to ensure that they are treated just like how persons who are taught to drive motor cars are treated. This is their avenue.
A center was actually constructed on the other side of this room where we are going to be offering motorcycle operations level 1.
Executive Director of the Insurance Association of Jamaica, Orville Johnson, says it was critical for the association to get involved.
It is estimated that about 50,000 bikes are on the road, and our information suggests that only 10,000 of those motorbikes have insurance. They have families, they have people dependent on them for support. They need to sometimes have medical care given to them. They also need to repair their bikes, and sometimes they destroy person's property when there's an accident. So insurance, depending on the amount of insurance and the type that you have, provides an opportunity to deal with the economic loss that comes out of a crash.
The program also provided incentives, such as complimentary insurance, helmets, and gas vouchers for some participants. The participants say they appreciate the foreseeable benefits of the program.
I've learned a lot of things today, which I didn't know.
Licensing and insuring their bike is a good thing, because on the road any little accident can occur and you don't have to run. You can be right and get what you should get on any little thing.
We're looking at a strong presence here for the next 5 years to see how best we can because changing culture takes time. So definitely it won't happen overnight, but with continuous empowerment, we will do it.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
Here now is a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the health report, we'll look at temperature scan and the brain.
I would love for every family in Jamaica, frankly speaking, to have an infrared scan in their home, right? They should all have it, because gone are the days when we should touch someone and say, oh, you're feeling hot or cold. If you cannot afford the infrared scan, then in the household, it's okay to have the original digital thermometer that you put under someone's armpit. Obviously, you're going to clean it carefully between use.
That's the health report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's healthy living tip. No matter which type of thermometer you use, take these precautions. Read the instructions that came with the thermometer. Wash your hands with soap and warm water before using the thermometer. Clean the thermometer before and after each use with rubbing alcohol or soap and lukewarm water. And wait at least 6 hours after taking medications that can no longer lower your temperature, like Tylenol, Advil, or aspirin.
Sports now. TVJ Sports understands that both Godfrey Lothian and Andrew Liu have now agreed on a clearer path towards vying for the presidency of the Jamaica Table Tennis Association following a meeting with the Dispute Resolution Foundation on Tuesday, Renata Brown reports.
Though neither party could be reached for comment, TVJ Sports has been informed that both Lothian and Liu agreed to a meeting later this month to decide on the way forward. Now, prior to the meeting with the DRF on Tuesday, presidential challenger Liu had set out 3 key areas that must be addressed going forward. Liu had asked that the voting list of affiliates be reviewed and decided on ahead of the next annual general meeting. He also requested that the incumbent submit audited financial statements for his entire tenure as president, which runs from 2013 to present. Liu had also asked that Lothian be declared unfit to contest the next JTT election. But while it's understood that both parties have agreed on the cleaning up of the voters list, it is unclear as to the decision on the remaining points. Lothian had told TVJ Sports last week that it was unrealistic to submit audited financial statements dating back to 2013, as the cost to do just the 2018 audit was in excess of $400,000. Lothian also dismissed Liu's request that he should not contest the election. The standoff between Liu and Lothian has escalated over the last 10 months after former presidential challenger Karen Sinclair Lim brought a case against Lothian and the JTT in 2019. The Supreme Court had subsequently declared the AGM and special meeting null and void. Renardo Brown for TVJ Sports.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashan Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.